Right, I just want to hear also a snippet of what our panelists have to say regarding this particular development and the suspension of Gideon, as well as, you know, the whistleblower. Do you find it that it was fair for him to be suspended on that particular note? Let's hear from Gladys Bostrile and also Pogiso, Samuel Pogiso. Good morning. Gladys?
It's about the suspension?
Yes. Let's begin from there. And just the whole situation about coronavirus.
I think I listened to what the minister was saying. He has not explained to us why it has taken them how many days since we first heard about corona. That was the first comprehensive statement we had from the government. And I didn't really hear a solid strategy about it. I heard them talking about self-quarantine. We know we are indisciplined Kenyans, so how do you expect people to self-quarantine? He has used a word like, I guess, as good, your guess is as good as mine. That's disappointing from a Minister of Health. He says we do not want to have panic, but remember, panic happens only when people don't have knowledge. I would have seen a situation where the first day corona was talked about, that is the time they should have reacted. You don't need an interministerial task force to deal with it. It should have been a matter of course by the Ministry of Health automatically with their institutions. Remember, there's a whole setup under the Ministry of Health. We have experts in Kenya, I think they call them virologists, who study virus.
Yes.
We should have been seeing that happening with professionals. Don't bring the cabinet, because what happens if they focus now on the emergency of corona? Suppose there's an emergency of locusts, then they'll have another interministerial committee of the same members of parliament. Same cabinet members. It should be automatically the relevant ministries and institutions should have kicked into action. And I've expected that I would have seen the army are able to build temporary houses, and they have budgets for that. Where if they were to go, if they went into war. So that's when you actually, the army puts up temporary housing in a matter of days and sets up a hospital where people are taken. I would have wanted to see a picture of that particular secluded hospital with our health workers in full protective clothing and say, anyone who suspects they have the following symptoms, come to us. But to wait until, is it yesterday they made the statement? Yes. So I haven't seen the statement, and then he says, we are going to set up. I wanted to hear, we have set up, right? So when you tell us what you're planning to do, and we are still in discussion, several days later, this is several weeks after we heard about the coronavirus. So I think they should just step up their game. It's below average.
Right. Let's hear from Samuel Pogiso. Good to see you.
Thank you very much, Debal, and good morning. I think one of the things that we've said, having actually ventilated on these matters in the Senate, even just both the local situation and now this more serious one. And what I said even there is that government is not visible. They are not communicating. I think the Wananchi are not even able to pronounce this thing, which by now everybody should be able to pronounce, as because of a very serious matter. And imagine it took the efforts of Parliament to bring ministers to the House to clarify things, just for clarity. And if parliamentarians are not clear on it, then you imagine what the ordinary Mwananchi is going through, agonizing. And we're telling them there's a disease. What kind of disease is this? It's coming. It's hurting everybody. It's so fast. It's spreading very fast. Do you expect people not to get scared by that kind of what they see in the social media, what they see in the electronic and print media? You know, so we have a situation in our hands that we are not responding as fast as we think we should really be responding. Now that our friend of mine has become the Minister for Health, Kawangware, sometimes this is why I think it's important to have people who can actually speak on the issue. If you see who is speaking, you realize that people who have actually had a tint in politics or alive in politics, they kind of come out communicating better. And so there's a need for that to be the general story in government. And so we wish him well, congratulating him and wishing him well. But please, don't tell us. Don't tell us you're going to do. Just do it. We want to see. We want to see in West Pokot that the hospital there has set up a space. In every county, something has been done to show that we are prepared in case one of these cases show up. And this is a world, a very complex world, by the way. With those of us who live along the borders, we're so scared because our borders can be so porous. And you don't know where someone is going to enter from, you know, and so we need to secure our borders for this kind of emergency, seriously. And of course, we all say that this business of that aircraft was a big mistake.
Yes.
And so dealing with a young man who was a whistleblower, so it was whistleblowers everywhere get in trouble. I mean, you know that. It was, especially when they're dealing with government.
This was only in Kenya.
They get in trouble. If you look at the U.S. also, remember the U.S. blowers, some of them lost their jobs. And so it is very interesting that maybe there is some security breach. And I worked also in that sector myself. So I understand what KQ is saying about breach of security. But in a time of scare and emergency, please don't show that the guy was being punished for alerting us of this thing. So, I mean, it's a way you communicate.
It's a way you communicate.
Yeah.
Okay, let's say from Richard Onyonka,
Yes.
the repercussions that the guy, Mr. Giri, is going through right now, the suspension, do you think it's really called for? Briefly.
I think the gentleman, according to me, is a true hero. More Kenyans need to raise such issues. I can assure you that that clip was a game changer in terms of it coming out. And indeed, there are many Kenyans who are also raising those issues as to what the government was not doing. Dibala, I can tell you that that issue, some of us had actually raised it. I think, like I posted it on my Twitter account
3 weeks ago.
3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And I said, why is our government allowing Chinese planes to land in Kenya? And that question is very simple. We didn't know, if up to now, we don't know what that disease is. We don't know the implications and how you would treat it. Even the Chinese are having a problem with it. The Americans are now worried about it. Look at what has happened to the stock market in the US. So these are all issues which a proactive government should have been there immediately this crisis started. And we need to look at ourselves that way. Kenya is supposed to be a country where we have qualified personnel. We are always a country where we figure out what to do.
Yes.
And on several occasions, we really disappoint ourselves. And in this case, we really, really disappointed ourselves. Because if you look out there, the way Madam Sholea said and my Senator Pogisha said, a government, when something as substantive and as heavy as this comes out,
yes,
the government must be on top of it. The government might say, we are aware this is happening, we are trying to do something about it, this is what we are doing, and this is what our expectation is supposed to be. So again, you have this dysfunctionality within Jubilee, which I don't understand. I don't know whether we are too involved into our current politics right now and nobody wants to work. But you see, Dibal, people who are picked to run government are not politicians. All right? So you would have expected that the interaction and the engagement would have been deeper than it is right now. And yet, or again, the other problem you had is there was a reshuffle, you had Madam Cicely Kariuki being
so the handover
moved.
could have
so
been,
the handover could have created
a relay sort of.
Yes, a vacuum. But I think our government needs to do better, and we need to pull our socks and make sure that we are actually in control of this issue.
Let's one thing that viewers must know that is important.
Just a moment. Let's hear from Herman. We'll come to you.
It will help the conversation because the passenger flights have been stopped, but the cargo coming into the country from China has not been stopped. The cargo could be carrying the virus. No one has told us about that.
All right. Also, I think Okongo Omogeni alluded to the fact that we have Ethiopian Airlines also coming or making the routes via also JKA as well. Let's wind up also with Herman Manyora and Okongo Omogeni on this.
Two quick things before I talk about the coronavirus, but related. One, government must move, whoever is responsible, to reinstate that man who was sacked. Because government should not be seen to be hiding something. It is dangerous at these times. Reinstate that man and end the story. Number two, let's not blame government officials for not operating. In this country, nobody is ever hired to work. You have been long enough in this country. They never look for people who are capable. They never hire people to work. And if you attempt to show you didn't understand that script when you were employed, the Choles and the rest are here to tell you you'll be shown the door. PLO told us. Now look at CEO. They are looking for a CEO of the city. You say this city is in problems. Do you think they are going to hire somebody like Philip Kisha who has shown he can do it? They are going to come up with some crook from somewhere and give him the job. So let's not blame anybody for not performing. They never hire you to perform. They never even scout for people to perform. Now, on this coronavirus debate, government's first duty and responsibility is to its citizens. So when you are relating with the foreigners, you must relate with the foreigners in a manner to show the citizens that you understand government's first responsibility is to its citizens. Look here, and I'm asking government to be very careful. Government is going to make Kenyans hate foreigners, especially Chinese, in the manner in which they are behaving. You know, government is akin to a man who has mature children and brings a small wife in the family. If you become overprotective of this small girl you have brought, nobody will accept him in that family. You see, if there's very little food, you think she's the only one who should eat. Government is showing obvious preference towards the interest of foreigners. And this is, I'm repeating this. It is not in the interest of government. It's not in the interest of those foreigners you are trying to protect, to overprotect. Because we want Kenyans to interact with the foreigners very well. We want our Chinese to continue being our partners, our brothers, our sisters. You know, because they are doing such a wonderful job in this country. But don't set Kenyans against the Chinese and other foreigners by doing the kind of things government has been doing. I hope Mutahi Kagwe, who I have confidence in, will move and try to advise government. And I know that doesn't happen. You never advise government when you are given a job. Government wants to advise you what to do. But I hope government is listening to me. And if they are listening to me, let them not be overprotective. Let what comes out of whatever they do show Kenyans that it is their interest. And right now, I was doing my barber business, kinyozi. I don't go to a spa like Onyonka because I'm a small man. Small people there were saying things. I say, kumbe hawa Kenya wanaelewa maneno. They were saying this. What happens if this coronavirus hit Kawangware? You see how they are saying? Look at the city of Nairobi. Look at how crowded it is. Look at the traffic jam. These are villagers who are small little fellows. Say, look at the traffic jam in Nairobi. Look at crowded slums in the... What are we saying if this thing hit us? Are we really prepared? So government must know their concerns, and government must address the concerns of Kenyans as a way of building confidence. But I must not end before I repeat this. Don't appear to be there to serve the interest of foreigners. Show Kenyans they come number one, and then we relate well with our foreigners.
Thank you.
Iran, if you see the moves America has taken in the past 2-3 days, then you can understand what our country does if it sees and senses a problem and a danger. We don't seem to have sensed the danger. We hope this thing doesn't go far. I hope the doctors who are saying we are resistant are right. That Africa ikit what I gonga, nothing. I hope that's the case. I really hope. Because if this thing came here, honestly, it will wipe all of us.
It will. Right.
Which is bad.
Which is
unfortunate.
First, I think, Dibal, we should all accept that we have a responsibility as Kenyans to send warnings if there is a feeling that there is some danger. And I think what the young man was doing, he was trying to send an alert to Kenyans that, look, there is this plane that is coming in from China and it could pose a danger to the people of Kenya. I don't think the way you react to such a Kenyan is to sack him. I think really even if you invoke the Constitution, Article 47, what has happened to that young man is unfair, and I hope that if he's not reinstated, he can move to court and we get an intervention from court. But you know what is also worrying me is I've heard Madam Choles speak about cargo. I don't know about Mombasa, the tourists who are coming into Kenya. I don't know whether we have put in place measures to ensure that we are sure where are these ships coming from. Have they passed through Europe? Do we have people from China? What about the chartered flights?
From Italy.
You know, from Italy, and I'm sure about 3 come into Mombasa every week. You have not had anything, and I think if you read what's happening in Europe now, Italy is really the center of that epidemic. Have we put in place measures to ensure that these planes coming in, we have a way of ensuring that we subject these visitors into some serious medical examination, and if they have symptoms, we can keep them in safe places? Because last I read it was we had a bed capacity of 14, and 11. The planes 11, and the planes are coming in with over 200 passengers. I think we really need to be on alert. I read that in some countries like Japan, I think it's Japan, they have closed schools.
Oh, yeah. Yes.
So this thing is not a joke. You know, you can't just be a minister who says you are prepared. Do you understand the kind of danger that this country
followed?
Yeah?
Yesterday,
You know,
another country.
in fact, even when you talk about tourism in Mombasa, in Japan, they have closed a number of these tourist attraction centers. They're not working. So even as a country, we need to, it's not just about saying we want tourists in Mombasa. Do the coming of these tourists pose a danger to us as a people?
Thank you.
Well, there's a point that I wanted just to mention a little bit. It's about this self-quarantine. Self-quarantine. You know, we are assuming that everybody who comes to our airports has a home where they have personal rooms and they can actually shut themselves out and separate from their neighbors and so on. This is amazing. They need to know that there is no way African societies can self-quarantine. I mean, you will definitely live with people. They will definitely move around with people. It's difficult for people to self-quarantine. You're assuming that these guys live in upmarket areas where they have their own compound, where they have their own house or room. This is not going to work. And so they need to understand that. Look, take the case where we've said, supposing it breaks out in one of our slums, whatever you call them. Surely, what self-quarantine can a Kenyan do there? I mean, so the word self-quarantine should really be removed from our policy. Set up places where you put these people for 14 days so that we are confident that they're not coming in contact with anybody.
Right.